Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage the head of media and digital at Kantar Millward Brown, Mr. Pablo Gomez.
Thank you very much. Thank you, and welcome to this first session. So today I'm going to talk about marrying the right data with the right content. So data and content are two things that actually are more and more getting together. And I'm sure probably you have read a lot of articles, a lot of things about how to get together data and content. And we know that we live in an age of abundance, right? And probably you heard about that. Well, if you go to the internet, data is everywhere, right? We can find data. There is a content explosion as well. So content is everywhere. This morning we heard from Kantar Futures about how the content is really, really exponentially growing, and you can find more websites than ever before. There is a proliferation of data actually everywhere, but there is we're living more in the currency of attention. So consumers more and more is not that easy to get their attention. There are different studies, especially from the US, that talk about how an average human being used to have 12 seconds span of attention. A goldfish actually is on average 9 seconds. And now there are different studies that show how the average span of attention for people is around 8 seconds. So we have a lower span of attention than a goldfish. So can you imagine how difficult is that? So there is content everywhere, but it's getting more and more difficult to talk to consumers. That's the big challenge, actually. We run a very quick research around Southeast Asia, and I don't think that's going to be that different from any other parts of the world, actually. And one of the things we ask them is that, do you think there is more content? Is there more advertising around? Are more brands talking about or communicating to you? 86% of them saying there are more content and there are more ads than 3 years ago, for example. 86% of them. And actually, 7 out of 10 said that advertising is more intrusive, more annoying than 3 years ago. So there is more content, but they feel, and this is, of course, their perception, but this is consumers' perception, that's important, right? That is more annoying. And actually, and that's something that you probably have seen different data and different numbers, but actually 32% of them, especially we talk about the younger generation, Gen Z, they are using ad blockers, right? And this is a number, but you can see different numbers that go from 30% to probably 50%, depending on the country. And that's a reaction from the consumers to advertisement, to the things we are trying to communicate. So something is going on, actually. And younger people are actually the less receptive to advertisement, particularly digital. When we talk about advertisement, everyone, and a lot of the marketeers, they think about, TV advertisement, people are not really receptive. But we have found, actually, that people are quite relatively positive, and they still accept actually advertisement on television, right? And even on other traditional media. But when we ask them about if they are positive, if they are receptive to digital advertisement, consumers actually tend to be less receptive. And especially younger generations, they are even less receptive to that. And I'm not saying, don't take me wrong, I'm not saying that digital advertisement is not working, it's not going to work. But what I'm saying is that we need to change the way we communicate and we contact them in digital. Right? And if you think about yourselves as a consumer and you are in your mobile phone, for example, and you see an ad or a video that jumps in, this is probably more annoying than actually watching the TV and there is an ad, because you naturally accept advertisement on television, right? And actually, only 40 to 45%, depends on the country, are open to receive online video advertisement, and actually 44 are actually highly annoyed about it. They declare, and of course, again, this is perception, this is their opinion, but there's something going on when 44% of them said, I'm really annoyed about seeing advertisement on digital, right? There is something going on, there's something we need to change the way we go. And sorry, I'm talking about data, and probably I don't know if you expected to say, more data, we need to find. Well, actually, probably more data is not the solution, actually. Because 33% of consumers across APAC, and this is a number that is growing every year. This is about a research we are conducting every year. And they said they are concerned about the amount of personal data that companies know about them, right? if we compare the developed countries with the growing countries, emerging countries, the difference is bigger. So we have more than half of people actually in developed countries, they are concerned about the data. And we have numbers not only in APAC, but we have numbers from Europe and the US. That number is even higher. It goes close to 70%. So the developed countries are even, consumers are more and more concerned about the amount of data that the different advertisers and companies are using about them. So more data, just more data is not the solution, right? There is something that needs to go beyond that, right? And this is my kind of first reflection, and I'm going to go through it now, is that technology is not a substitute of creativity, right? Even your best algorithm is not going to make your proposal relevant at all, right? You can have a great programmatic campaign. You can target, retarget, laser target, all the different types of targeting you can imagine. If your content, if your message is not relevant, it's not going to work. Even consumers are going to be even more annoyed than before, right? So this is about also creativity. And we know, and this is more traditional market research number, that traditionally we knew that creativity on television normally work. And we have a lot of data, and probably you have seen tons of data that shows that when you have a group creativity, it's not just about, and this is linking with sales, when we have not only the market share, but you have an effective share of voice, for example, this will increase your market share even further. When you have a relevant creativity, actually this is going to improve your sales, right? And I don't know if you know Brand Z. Brand Z is the ranking of the 100 more important brands in the world, and we have it by different regions. This is something launched by WPP. And one of the exercises we did was to classify actually 95 brands. We classify in the last 10 years, and we analyze how they grow in the last 10 years. And we actually classify in two different axes. One of them was the advertising was appealing for consumers, and the second one was different, was something that for me is meaningful, is relevant, but it's also different. And we classified the different brands in these two axes. And what we found actually that the brands that were really meaningful and the advertising was relevant, right? They grow in the last 10 years 187%. Compared, of course, with the brands that were not that different, not relevant, they grow at 19%. They grew in the last 10 years, yes, but can you see the difference between a brand that consumers are perceiving that this is a brand that is relevant, this is a brand that advertisement is really appealing to me? So there is actually, that's the relevance actually of creativity, is linked to actually how your brand is growing. And bad creative actually has consequences. Sometimes we talk about in the world of digital especially, about, well, it doesn't matter. I just go and launch, I do an A/B test, and I will see if that works or not. It doesn't matter. It's cheap, relatively cheap. Well, actually, no. We run an analysis in our database on brand lift, actually comparing people controlled and exposed to the different creativities. And we saw that when the creativities are at the bottom 20%, the worst in terms of creativity, people, for example, don't understand the message, people don't link it to the right brand, people even say, I don't like it. The impact on the brand perception is actually negative. So it's impacting negatively your brand, your purchase intent, the perception you have, the likeness of the brand is actually negative. When it's, of course, you're in the top 20%, it's actually growing really fast. So this is not just about, and today I wanted to talk about data and content. My first conclusion is that this is not just about data. This is about having the right data and the right content. And actually, this is about the reflection number 2, right? Is if we find the right balance of content, platform, and format, actually, and this applies not only to digital, this applies to television as well. How the formats, if you think about it, are changing more and more from long form formats to short form to things that go from 5 minutes to 2 hours. So you need to actually play with that. The content has many, many different forms today. I'm going to show you an example now. And I'm going to take you through the ad first. This is an advertisement that we test in Frankfurt, not in Frankfurt, in Germany, inside Germany, but our office is in Frankfurt. And we tested in 3 different platforms, actually. We tested on television, we tested on YouTube, and we tested on Facebook, right? And I will take you through the ad now. We can play the video, and I will take you the results. I'm going to translate this in Spanish. Basically, what it says is that smart, you will forget that you have a four-door car. It's so small that you will forget you have something behind you, right? This is basically what they say. So it's a very, sorry, it's in Spanish, it's just translated, but so it's a very funny ad, right? The guy is parking and he's thinking that he's got an smart, that, the very small car, and he's look at his back and say, whoa, there is someone behind me. So we tested on television. If you can think about the results from TV, what do you think? Do you think it worked? It's actually a really good ad. No? It's actually worked really well. It worked really well. Because actually, well, you see, it's really funny, actually, and explains very well the product. On YouTube, the results were, and this is, I'm not comparing different platforms, I will explain why, but on YouTube actually worked really well as well. Because probably the way you're watching and people are watching YouTube is kind of similar to what we are watching on TV. And on Facebook, what happened on Facebook is actually didn't work. And there's nothing against Facebook. I can show you, we have great examples of Facebook. But actually didn't work for two different reasons. The first one, and we were surprised, but it's kind of obvious. The first 8 seconds, actually, of the ad, nothing is really happening. The guy is parking. And in Facebook, is normally, if you think about the news feeds, normally you tend to scroll down really quickly, right? So normally, most of the people actually skip the ad, didn't watch it. And actually, the people who watched the ad, what happened? That the volume was off. So actually, from the guy, you couldn't really listen to it. So actually, and I'm not saying that, of course, Facebook is great for some specific creativities, but you need to adapt the specific creativity to that. It didn't work at all in one platform. It worked really well in another platform, right? So this is just an example. And the other thing is that there is more and more data that is showing, and a lot of the clients and our marketeers are showing that synergies are important. There is, of course, we're coming from a world that actually, I think, in the last few years, everything was digital, right? And everything was putting money in digital. And if you think about what happened this year with companies like P&G, et cetera, everyone start questioning again digital and say, hold on, I need to see the ROI. What's going on here? And now what is happening, I think, for next year is people are talking about more synergies. Digital is important, but it needs to be in the context of the rest of the media. And we have data that shows, actually, that when you have a good synergy across different platforms, including TV, digital, even if you have radio, out of home, et cetera, your ROI increases at 25%. You have an additional return of investment. And actually, we ask different marketeers, and this is a research we run every year, called Getting Media Right. We ask marketeers, what is the key things you are missing in terms of measurement, for example? The number one by far is the one you see on the left hand, especially in APAC, is that I need to understand more my cross-platform performance. And this is especially high in APAC. It's not just about I need to understand more digital. I need to understand if I have a TV campaign, if I have an online campaign, how they are working together. Actually, 70, and the number is not here, but 70% of them said that they would invest more, actually, if they have the numbers showing that a cross-platform, a cross-media campaign is working. They will invest more in the future. So they need more data, of course, but data to show that this is working. And actually, about synergies, TV, for example, plays a big role on showing how on helping the other media work. And actually, TV is not just a channel that is working, and it's still working, of course, but it's also helping the other channels to perform better, including digital. If we have, and this is an index, if we have a campaign on the left hand that is non-TV media, and there are many different reasons. Of course, it's because the investment normally is lower, and there are many different reasons, but normally tends to worse in terms of impact than a just TV campaign. But the magic, let's say, happens in terms of impact when you combine both things. And if you see this is an index, it will work almost 3 times better if you have a combination of TV plus other media, including the online, etc. Right? So it's the synergy where it actually is working. But we need to understand how actually consumers play. And we can talk about things like multi-screen. There's a lot of things that we normally talk about, multi-screen. Oh, yeah. If you think about multi-screen, what comes to your mind? Probably someone sitting in front of the television takes the mobile phone and says, oh, that's an interesting ad. Let me find more information about it. How many times do you think that, how many times you have done that? How many of you guys have sit in front of the television and say, oh, that's a really interesting ad. Let me find more information about it. Not many, right? Actually, if you think about it, only 14% of people actually do that. Only 14. Actually, there is a 22% of people that actually, they are using the screen, that they're using the mobile, but actually doing something different. But most of the people, we do sifting, which is basically, if there is an ad that is really appealing to me, I will find information, but not right now. I'm just watching TV right now. But probably tomorrow or 3 days later, I will think about, oh, what was this ad? Oh, what was this restaurant I saw the other day? Or what was this car? So yes, it happens multi-screen, but not at the same time. I'm going to show you an example that I really love. I'm not going to say who the advertiser is. Probably some of you guys know it. It's from this year. It's from the US. But I think this is a very clever and effective example of multi-screen. Can we play the video and I will talk about it?
According to some, there's a place where Coca-Cola tastes like so good. Go ahead, do a Google search for that place where Coke tastes so good. Yeah, right now. I'll wait. Got it? It's crazy, right? When's the last time anyone on the internet agreed on anything? That was a rhetorical question. The answer is never.
Okay. Probably, I don't know if you have seen it before, but do you know who the advertiser was? It's not Coke. Coke didn't pay for that even. So if you Google it, probably it's a few months away. But if you are one consumer and you said, oh, that sounds interesting, you actually search, the first thing you will find is McDonald's. And if you think about the colors, it's actually McDonald's. They have many different videos. It was a TV campaign, but there was a video campaign. There was a cross-media campaign, a lot of different media. And they had a microsite explaining why Coke tastes so good. And I didn't know that, to be honest. It seems like it tastes better because the process they have, they froze the water and they mix it at the start. I don't know if I agree or not on that, and I love McDonald's, but But actually it was really interesting content. Like, oh. But if you think about it, it's a probably extreme example because they don't even talk about the brand, but they are asking you, the first 2 seconds actually, what they say is that, according to some, there is a place where Coke tastes so good. I can imagine a lot of people will say like, oh, what? What is this place? They don't even mention the brand. So you search for that. And actually the results in the US were phenomenal. There was an increase on 500 million earned media impressions with the brand linked to that. So people were talking about the brand. They were talking about McDonald's. And the spike in search were amazing. Actually, you can still Google trend it, and you will find this peak when you say there is where Coke tastes so good, a place where Coke tastes so good. So actually they created a multi-screen in a very clever way, combining both things, creating curiosity. And again, it's about the content, it's not about the data. And at Kantar we run, because we have a lot of data and a lot of research about long-form formats, short-form formats, different types. And we created like a small cheat sheet, let's say, where we say, okay, the short form versus the long form, how does it work? And of course, you can have a short format. Actually, that's why, for example, YouTube bumpers and the videos in Facebook normally work really well when they are short form videos. The long form video works as well, but normally works better when you're talking to your own audience. Right? So you're not going to recruit people using a 2 minutes video. It's really difficult. If you don't know anything about the brand or category and you're not even interested, you're not going to watch a 2 minutes video, right? But if that's your brand and you love your brand, you're going to watch a 2 minutes video. Or, of course, there are videos that everyone watches, viral videos, but those are not the majority, to be honest. So there are different formats that you can use depending on the objective of your campaign. And actually takes me to the last rule or the last reflection I'm going to talk about today, which is the old rules still apply. And some people probably from digital would say, no. Well, yes, old rules still apply. What people want, and what do you want when you're watching, for example, or you're on Facebook? We ask people actually the different criteria they have, or for watching an ad, for not skipping an ad. And basically what people want is that is funny. I mean, you think about the last video you watched probably on Facebook or on YouTube, probably it's a funny video. It's something that is, you're in the morning, you want to see something that is really funny, right? The second one is tells an interesting story, which sounds very obvious, but sometimes we forget about it. We need to tell interesting stories. People are not interested, and sorry to say that, and we will talk about it in the panel later, people are not interested in our brands. None of them. Most of them, 99% of them. Maybe there are 1 or 2 that are really interested. They are not interested in our brands at all. They are interested in the stories. They follow stories. They follow a purpose. They don't follow brands, right? And things like good music, special effects, so all the kind of criteria that normally you think about it, this actually works. It's not about the data and the right targeting. It's about showing the right content, right? And a story, if you think about it, yeah, stories make sense. But actually, we run an analysis of how many ads actually have a story behind and how many ads don't have. Most of them don't have a story behind. They're focused on the product. Let me talk to you about my product because it's so great that you will love it. But people are not going to listen because we listen to stories, right? If you think about these ads, there is a story behind most of them, right? There is a story about the guy parking the car and, he's trying to buy. You can even start thinking about there is a story behind these guys. Probably they go to the bar or they go to play basketball. There is something behind, right? Most of the ads don't have a story. And millennials, and we talk about millennials, so you can change the word for whatever next generation is coming, centennials or Generation Z, whatever. They can concentrate. They say, oh, no, they are not listening. They're not going to spend these 8 seconds with me. Oh, yeah, they will. And we have data, actually, that shows that when the ad actually is really, or the content is really engaging, and you can see on the left hand the average attention based on face encoding, which is actually people paying attention, real attention to the video, is actually maintained when the content is interesting. And they can actually watch long-form content. That is true. That is the blue line. Probably, I don't know, you can see, read the legend. They can actually spend time watching the ad if the content is really interesting, right? So it's not about the generation. Don't blame them. Actually, I think we need to think about that our content is relevant. And they don't want to listen to you as a brand, to market you as a brand or brand. They want to listen to stories, right? And I think I'm running out of time, but basically let me go through the final reflections. Again, is that technology is not a substitute of creativity. I'm talking about data, but data is not the solution. It's a great, great platform. We need to find the balance between content and platform and format, right? And finally, the old rules still apply. So really, you think about yourselves. I think that's the best way of doing it. Think about what you do and what you want to watch. This is what your consumers want to see, right? And yeah, thank you very much.